Cheating the masses. They are cheating the masses. They are too insensitive.
Please go. The executive of the National Petroleum Authority, Moses Asaga, says a 15% increase is unjustifiable.
I think that it is appropriate that they increase GPRTU fares by 15%.
The Acting General Secretary of the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, Andrew Kwesi Kwache, says the transport fares were moderately increased as it was supposed to have been increased from 18 to 20%.
By 18 to 20%.
So how justifiable is this increase in the face of decline in fuel prices on the world market? What should be the ideal situation? 15%, 10%, or even less? What was the agreement between NPA and transport operators, and why is one party breaching the agreement? Is the NPA's assurance to reverse this real or mere talk? We'll find out soon on today's big story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. One would have thought that the decline in world fuel prices means fuel prices in Ghana would be going down. So petrol, diesel, and LPG will get cheaper. Oil marketing companies have already announced a 2 to 4% decrease in the prices of petroleum products. Government says it deemed a 10% increase to be reasonable and made a proposal to that effect during negotiations with the transport operators. But even before negotiations could conclude, the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council at a news conference in Accra announced the changes in transport fares. A disappointed Moses Asaga insists there is no justification for the increase.
I don't think that it is appropriate that they increase GPRTU fares by 15%. I think that it is inappropriate at this point in time when there were still discussions going on between GPRTU and the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Petroleum and NPA. The last time we held the meeting, they were at 15%, and government side, we were at 10%. And the reason why we were supporting 10% was because that prices would go down at the time that they would be implementing 15%. So once fuel prices are going down, then there's no justification to increase the GPRTU fares by the 15%.
The surge in fares, according to the Acting General Secretary of the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, Andrew Kwesi Kwache, is as a result of the increment in the prices of petroleum products on January 4, 2016. He says they also took into consideration cost of spare parts, maintenance, licensing, and levies.
There hasn't been a deadlock. We were only waiting since we have January to review our prices. This is the time that we have ended the negotiation, hence we are coming out with these increases. Based on the analysis of the Transport Operator Technical Team, transport fares should have risen by 18 to 20%. The transport operators have made this decision with sensitivity to the score made by the public, our customers, and organized labor for moderation in the raising of the prices of critical services.
We'll be trying to get the GPRT to justify this increment as well. But in the studio with me right now is Duncan Amoah. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Good evening to you. Thanks for coming.
Good evening, Aisha. Good evening to your viewers.
Indeed, the NPA has stated it disagrees with the 15% increment, and it says that it will work to with the transport operators to reverse this. But in the interim, commuters have no option than to pay this. How do you feel about all of these?
Like you rightly pointed, the NPA cannot feel happy about this. Just like every Ghanaian is feeling the heat of all of this. And again, what you recall from MPA and the Transport Ministry is to the effect that they would have wished there is some adjustment, all right, but it should have been a bit lower than we are seeing currently. That indeed tells you something, that the GPRTU is taking all of us for one bad ride around this time when tariffs have gone up, fuel prices have gone up, parents are paying fees. This is the best gift that GPRTU is also giving Ghanaian commuters. I think it is quite unfortunate. But if you did a few mathematics with what we are even discussing today,
right,
I and most consumers in Ghana would disagree to any increment whatsoever. If you recall, when we entered deregulation on June 16, 2015, there was some attempts from our chamber to the Transport Ministry to ensure that it puts in place some workable mechanism, so that the transport operators do not have the leeway as they've had all the years. Because once you leave a system to people's integrity, then chances are that these systems may be abused or could be subdued for people's interest or people's, parochial interests. Unfortunately, the Transport Ministry went to sleep on the issue. Today, it's come back to bite us. You would recall that fuel prices had dropped some cumulative 33.43% from June 16th when we entered price liberalization to December 31st.
Exactly.
So you look at the 6-month stretch, and GPRTU pretended in this country they never heard, they never saw. Their members never went to the pumps to buy fuel
and that had
moved from 18 cedis a gallon to about 12 cedis. 6 clear Ghana cedis per each gallon. Commuters never enjoyed any rebate. And we saw this coming as far back as September 9th.
And what did you do about it?
We sent a petition to the Transport Ministry, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Transport, the GPRTU itself, the Office of Chief of Staff, because we saw that if fares were not brought down to levels that would help the Ghanaian commuter, time will come when GPRTU will come back to say, look, fuel has gone up by 10%. We need more. Do you need more from the existing already high levels, or you need more from levels that have been decreased? We never saw any decrease to commensurate the 12 Ghana cedis a gallon. So today, if you go back to increase, then you are increasing from the 18 Ghana cedis that you charged from last year, June. And that means that to the GPRTU, fuel must be selling around 20 Ghana cedis today,
and which is not
the case
at the pump.
So you'll be asking exactly why this increase currently.
Let's see what the commuters make of this increase.
This morning it has affected me some way or the other. When I was coming in the morning, I used to pay 1 cedi 70 pesos from 30 below to 37, and I paid 2 cedis from 30 to my office. So but when I was leaving office to campus, that one I haven't seen any increment. Yeah, it hasn't affected me.
So generally, what do you make of that?
Well, generally, it's going to affect our budget because now that we've started paying, it's going to affect everything, and which will affect our pocket. So the increment, the 10% increment, the salaries, the 10% increment. Now, with the fare affecting everything, I think the 10% is nothing.
Since the transport fares goes up, we have to adjust. Our salaries have not been increased, so we have to adjust ourselves to the system. But what I feel the government should do, or the appropriate bodies, those the GPRTU and the TUC, when they want to increase fares or want to hike the price in fares, they should sit down and let the prices come out. They should not allow the drivers to be multiplying the percentages, so that they'll be doing all sorts of things which is not realistic. They should come out with the correct fares.
It's going to affect us because here lies the case, water is going up, electricity is going up, yes, so our pay has not been, anything has not been done to our pays, and this time the first. So if I'm paying, let me say, 1 cedi 50 pesos for my fare, now maybe I'm paying 1 cedi 70 pesos. My water bill has gone up, my expenses have gone up. So automatically, it's going to affect me. Certain things that I'm doing, I cannot do anymore because I'm paying much and my pay is still not coming. So if my pay is not being increased, how am I going to say, this government, we are going to change?
Insensitive, and that is what I will have to say. Yeah, they are too insensitive. These things are too much. You know, they are talking about children going on the street without the parental care, but what are we going to use to take care of the children? If you are taking everything that I have, you are using parliament on certificate of emergency to take all these things from us, then I would say that it's insensitive. Okay. Insensitive. You see, and human beings, individuals as we are vulnerable. Very vulnerable, and that's why the government is taking undue advantage and cheating. I will say they are cheating the masses. They are cheating the masses, and because we are fueling their vehicles, they are not feeling it at all.
Money given to us is already not sufficient, so it will decrease the money we spend at school. So it will affect us. So we'll be hungry.
Oh, for me, I think my money that they give it to me is not even sufficient. So when they increase it, it's going to affect me.
Government isn't really good, and most of our parents are also not having their own vehicles. So if our transportation fee is being increased, it's going to affect us really, but then we are going to miss most of our school here.
We just hope, we get an increase in salaries and then that to cater for some of this increase. But some of us, we didn't know about some of this increase, and we have to cope with it. We have no choice.
So those were some views from commuters at the lorry parks, and we're still continuing our analysis with Mr. Duncan Amoah. NPA has indicated it will do all it can. It has actually said it served notice for the transport operators to reverse this, but it's not indicated when this will happen. It means that commuters would have no option than to pay for the new charges. So how do you intend to push for this thing to happen as soon as possible?
You see, Aisha, we are exploring further. If we still negotiate with the GPRTU, the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, and nothing will be done, and in the eventual analysis, the court find it prudent to pronounce that indeed Ghanaians are being ripped off, we will be suing the GPRTU for a refund of these monies. Indeed, if we don't set a precedent in this country, a time will come when the GPRTU, as profit motivated as they are, may want to be looking at something in the region of 100% increment, which you and I will be forced to bear, because those of us without private vehicles to commute from one place to the other would largely have to depend on GPRTU. And eventually, they are proven to the Ghanaian that they have not one bit of sensitivity in them.
Right.
Like I indicated, from June 2015 to December 31st,
right,
fuel prices had dropped accumulative some 33.43%.
Right.
One would have expected the GPRTU to even drop fares by 10%.
Okay.
So that today, as fuel prices go up, if you come back to tell the Ghanaian that you may need to adjust a little bit, people would now see you
understand what
as fair.
you're saying.
But you ignore 33. When it goes up by 27,
then
that is significant for you to jump on it.
Right.
Unfortunately for them, government has also been a bit lackadaisical, like I said.
Over the matter.
In a country where the moment fuel prices go up, you join a taxi, he tells you he's going to charge you 1 cedi, 2 cedi extra.
And there's no calculator to actually calculate how much should be.
You know, we've seen this over the years. Trotro, you sit in from one point to the other. One mate is charging you A, the other mate is charging you B. So we said, look, let's put a formula in place, the plus or minus formula.
Exactly.
Such that if you and I are aware that if it is plus 10, then you do a 0.7 variance, which means that if we do 10% reduction, GPRTU will be compelled now to go down by some 7%.
Exactly.
Because they will be allowed some 3% variance to take care of their maintenance and insurance and whatnot.
Sure.
Though those are not everyday kind of expenditure, they should be allowed that variance to take care of their other operational costs.
Right.
But as far as fuel becomes the major, factor in moving a transport from one point to the other,
right,
we were insisting that if we don't put in place a mechanism,
right,
that is easily predictable, for you and I to go to bed and say, look, fuel prices have gone up by, say, 12%.
So I know how
we
much
know
I'm going
that
to
GPRTU is going to come back with some 7-8%.
Right.
We would all be able to cut. But if we allow the system where 33.43 is nothing to GPRTU, 27 is something to them, so they latch onto it and make more money from all of us.
Right.
I think this system has largely failed us, and the Transport Ministry, unfortunately, hasn't done much to safeguard the interest of the average person.
We heard from the NPA. Indeed, Moses Asaga pointed out that in their negotiations, they agreed on a 10%. They okayed that. And looking at the decline in world fuel prices, in case the NPA is able to get these people to come back to 10%, is this something that you agree to?
Aisha, from where most Ghanaian commuters sit, like I indicated, if you wanted to do the simple mathematics, you do the 33.43 minus or less the 27% that government came to demand in taxes. You would have a positive variance of some 6.43.
I'll have you hold and go onto the phone line where we have Yaro Kasambata, Public Relations Officer of the National Petroleum Authority. Good evening to you. Thanks for joining us on today's big story.
Good evening.
Yaro, Mr. Asaga is not happy with this 15% increment, and he's saying that that was not the agreement reached when they met these people. What really was the agreement?
Well, it was an agreement that was still in the making, and so that is why we were a bit surprised that the stakeholders would go ahead and announce their position when there was indeed a meeting scheduled for today to carry through further discussions that we have been having in the last couple of weeks on this same matter. So, yes, our disappointment is a mixture of, both the quantum and then the timing and the fact that the consultative process was ongoing and indeed inconclusive when they went ahead to announce their position. We felt that they didn't keep faith with the consultative process, and that is actually what we've been working around the whole of today to try to get over with and ensure that we can get all stakeholders back to continue where we left off, and maybe in the end we can announce to the general public what is the common agreement on the matter.
So, so far, where have you reached with this intervention, and how soon should we expect a reverse of this?
Well, I don't think that the total objective is to go in for a reversal completely, and I don't want to be doing the same thing I have accused the other stakeholders of doing. This is a process that is still ongoing. We don't want to be preemptive in our statement. We want to continue with the consultation, and when we conclude, whatever is the conclusion, that is what we'll be speaking on. If now I mention this and they also hear me on radio, they will say that we have actually done the same thing we accused them of.
We only need some assurance. Definitely, once you feel it's unjustifiable to charge 15%, definitely something must be done about this. And so we just need you to assure us that definitely something will be done about this, and soon, maybe in 2 weeks, in 1 week, so we know we are enduring the pain for just some few period of time.
Yes, Aisha, and that is why I want to sound as assuring as possible. That we are in this, together with the stakeholders. We're back to, discussing how we can, come with a common front as soon as possible. And as soon as possible can be tomorrow, it can be in 2 days' time, it can be in the course of the week. And so I am hopeful that once the, partners are all back to the table to relook at this negotiation, we are able to, come to a common conclusion in the end. I'm very hopeful, and that's why I don't want to, preempt. We are all hopeful in the end we can do something better, but I don't want to start, preempting what the likely outcome will be. But we hope that, we can be able to communicate something to the consumer that, in the end, makes the consumer feel rest assured that whenever we put in systems and arrangements, we're able to guide us in our action.
And so the consumer should expect some reduction as soon as possible. Is that what we're saying?
Well, Aisha, I would not like to put it exactly the way you have. I have made myself very clear in what I've said. I'm saying that we have our own expectations in going to this, negotiation. But I don't want to start, preempting what our expectations are. We want to go in there with an open mind to continue where we left off. As soon as we're able to come to a conclusion, we are going to let the general public know. But we start sounding, the way you want me to say it, and in the end, that becomes the benchmark instead of going into what the content was. We are committed to completing what we started. Whatever the outcome may be, we'll let you know. And, we have said that we were not happy with the increment and the way it's been done. So there are two things we are saying, the way it's been done and the increment itself. And that is actually what we are back to the table to talk about.
Well, many thanks.
We hope that in the end, we're able to come out with a conclusion that makes the consumer happy.
Thanks so much. Yaro Kasambata is the Public Relations Officer of the National Petroleum Authority. We're back in the studio, and I had to cut you to speak to Yaro, but earlier on I asked you the question in case he's not even sure how much they're going to bring back this, and he doesn't want to make any pledges. But going by the Chief Executive's statement, he said they agreed on 10%. And so if indeed they're able to come back to this 10%, is this something that you're satisfied with?
Indeed, like I was pointing out earlier.
Right.
Let me commend the NPA for this bold,
step.
One would have expected the Transport Ministry to lead all of this.
Right.
But as usual, and as one would expect in a country like ours, institutions that are paid to do what they are supposed to do normally will be found either sleeping or not doing what they are supposed to be doing. So today is becoming more of an NPA fight. Though there's an oversight ministry that should have ensured appropriate mechanisms are put in place so that people do not have their whimsies
to
decide anything at all they want to do,
right,
as per how much they want to charge,
right,
how much they think would suit their pockets, irrespective of whether the consumer or the commuter is able to afford.
Right.
Today, the NPA has taken this initiative, and we are sounding a word of caution again to the GPRTU,
right,
that if they believe they have a certain autonomy which allows them to do as they please, they should not forget there's a contract with the Ghanaian. Most remote places where you would not have other sources of transport, it is largely these vehicles that move people, so it becomes a monopoly of a sort.
Right.
And if you abuse a monopoly, you are abusing the people.
Right.
We will be seeking, if we can get the law courts to rule in our favor, we'll be seeking a refund from the GPRTU as an oversight body.
Okay.
For all of this, we believe it is cheating. Like I was pointing out, if you do the simple mathematics, 33.43 less 27, you are arriving at 6.43. Today, fuel has gone down further by 2%.
Right.
So if you add that onto, you are doing 8.43 variance, positive.
Right.
So one could have expected that transport fares could have even been maintained. We have said if they should have gone up, it shouldn't have been above 5%.
Right.
Just by way of allowing them some space to be able to accommodate new insurance fares that are being charged.
And they talk of car maintenance and all that.
But those excuses for us becomes very flimsy.
Right.
You would need petrol from morning to evening to run your vehicle.
Exactly. So.
I wonder how many vehicles in Ghana would need to change spare parts every day. It doesn't happen.
Right.
That is why there's always, in calculating transport a fare regime, you have an allowable variance that you allow them to be able to use to maintain
their
or service
the and all
so
of that.
if you are doing, say, 3% a day, and you even do 10 days, you have done 30% of your sales.
Okay.
Right? That could go into your maintenance.
Right. The NPA is not sure the outcome of their meeting with the transport operators, but they're hopeful something better will come out. What will be your expectation in this meeting, or are they going back to the table?
In fact, it is beginning to look gradually impossible or difficult to get anything out of GPRTU or Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council at the moment.
Right.
Unless, and of course, something drastic is done.
Okay.
But Aisha, like I indicated, if we do not put in place a regime that takes care of all of this mess, we'll go and come back 6 months down the line
and talk about
the same thing again.
So how do you intend, as a chamber, what's your plan to get this done?
You see, we have put in place a clear proposition to the Transport Ministry, the plus and minus scheme.
Right.
If the Transport Ministry could only forward back to Parliament for it to be rectified, that look, this is what we are going to accept in transport fares in the country. The moment fuel prices go up by 10%, indeed you can do 7% adjustments. That is fine. We will take the responsibility to go back and explain to the people that you need these monies to maintain and run your transport business.
Right.
And if it goes down by 10%, you are going to, so if it goes down by 20 and a 7, then it means the consumer must get 14.
Okay.
If they had put that in place at 33.43, the consumer could have received nothing less than 20% reduction in fares.
Okay.
And that for those who do VVIP from, say, Accra to Kumasi, the 40 Ghana cedis fare that were paying previously and for which today they are, if you had taken 20% of that 40 Ghana, you are going to do about 8 cedis.
Okay.
So before the
so
person
that would have
moves
been
up,
a benefit to
some
the
benefit
consumer,
to the consumer,
or
but
the
unfortunately,
commuter, rather
we've
than
lost all of this.
increase.
We've lost all of
Okay,
this.
so this is today's big story. Many thanks to you, Duncan Amoah, for coming. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana. I've been talking about the 15% increment by the GPRTU and its associates, and the fact that NPA is not happy about this. They're actually saying that they've not concluded negotiations, which allowed for a 10% increment, and even without conclusion, the GPRTU has gone ahead to charge. You've heard Mr. Amoah, he wants 5%. If there's anything to go by, it should be 5% increment and not even 10%. And if the GPRTU doesn't heed to this, maybe they'll go to court to seek for redress for the commuter. Many thanks for watching. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Good evening.